Everybody, this is Blake from HubSpot. Before we jump into the topic at hand, just wanted to cover some of my background before we jump into everything. So my name's Blake, like I said. Before HubSpot, I had a career over at DiviPay, which is in the fintech industry, where I worked with quite a few accounting firms and accounting departments in general to help grow their businesses and drive more sales and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping to kind of cover today. And then I'll be using some of the HubSpot tools to demonstrate kind of these concepts and how you could actually use these in your business on a day-to-day basis. So to start off kind of the format of today, I'm going to be covering how to generate more referrals from your current client base, retain more clients, and get more renewals, and also drive net new revenue to your agency. So to start off, we'll jump into generating referrals. So if you're like most agencies I've worked with or firms, referrals are a big piece of your business. Lots of the time they know other business owners or other individuals that can use your services. And really they can do lots of the selling for you. It's really typically low touch. And also those clients typically stay with you longer. So what I do here at HubSpot is I help different accounting agencies and firms kind of come up with tools and ways to leverage those tools to drive more referrals and make it automated where you're not having to fire off an email or remember to reach out to somebody. So what I really recommend on this end of things is using some kind of survey tool to gauge how likely somebody is to refer you in the first place. So what I have kind of prepared here is just the one that HubSpot uses. So it's your typical NPS survey, which is your net promoter score. And basically the way we have it set up and the way other tools have it set up is it's going to fire off an email after a certain amount of days after the deal has closed. So in this case, then get how likely would you to recommend HS demo to a friend or colleague? The reason this is important is it can really gauge how interactive this client is with your company and how happy they are at the end of the day. For example, if they had a terrible experience, they're probably not going to rate you a 10 because why would they have a friend or colleague that they'd want you to work with in the first place in that case? So basically how this works, they'll rate you. Then based off this, you'll set up different prompts based off how they rate you. So for example, if they're a promoter 9 to 10, can you tell us more about why you scored us so highly so you know what you're doing well? If they're passive in the 7 to 8 range, it's going to prompt them to give you feedback on how to do better next time. And then if they're 0 to 6 and they just had a really bad experience, it's going to prompt them to share kind of where you missed the mark. From there, it'll send them a specific thank you page based off how they responded. So we have detractors, passive, and promoters. And then where things get really cool is your enrollment triggers and the automation you can build behind that. And most tools should have something like this if you're looking at the right tools. For example, with ours, super easy. So you could just pick the stock out of the box one if they became a customer more than 30 days ago. And it'll actually estimate how many people are going to get this email. You can also get quite a bit fancier and more targeted as well by editing the criteria to narrow down the list. Or you can just keep it out of the box like this, whatever you prefer. But really the key here is that we're collecting feedback and we're trying to learn, okay, who's happy with our service and who's willing to actually refer somebody to us. That's the whole goal of this at the end of the day. So that's where the automation piece comes in. So in HubSpot specifically, you can build out different automations based off their responses. So in this case, if they're a detractor, I have an internal email going to the contact owner of that company or individual. And it's just going to say, this client is a detractor, please check NPS notes and reach out. So the goal here is to make sure that they aren't an actual detractor. They're not going out and writing bad surveys or rating us bad on Google or telling people not to use us worst case. That'd be definitely not ideal. In the passive area, we're trying to also still reach out and make sure that they're happy before we prompt them for either giving us a referral or giving us a Google rating. And then on the promoter side of things, we have it built out where they'll get email to the actual customer, prompting them to give us referrals, and then also prompting them to rate us on Google. So this tool kind of blends between both, but I think every agency needs a really good strategy around how do we figure out who would refer us and who's happy with us? And then B, how do we leverage that to get actual referrals? And then C, how do we also leverage that to get net new business through things like Google reviews, since Google is such a powerhouse nowadays? So really using NPS surveys, regardless of the tool you use, could be very valuable in your company, let you know the actual feedback of your customers and let you know who's worth following up with and who you might just need to recycle. So really powerful tool, can give you lots of insights on what's actually happening with your company and ultimately just drive more revenue and drive more referrals and more happy customers at the end of the day. As far as retaining clients, the other thing that I have set up is going to be a workflow. So the way that works is if we go to the renewals tab here, this is basically lots of systems have this, but it is a way to set up automated follow-up to drive a certain action. So in this case, we have a workflow built for renewals. So this is primarily focused at retaining business. So what it's going to look like is we're saying that we know the deal has closed, they're an actual customer, and then we're going to set a time trigger. So in this time, I just kind of made an arbitrary number of 300 days. Put you roughly 2 months away from tax season, in most cases, if you're doing business taxes. And then what's going to happen here is it's going to send out an email to that customer saying, hey, reserve your spot for 2023 taxes. And then depending on how they respond to that, depends what happens after that. So if they open the email more than 3 times, it's going to send an alert to the sales rep saying, hey, this person's opened your email 3 times, but still hasn't booked a renewal call. Reach out to them and follow up. On the flip side, if they mark you as spam or opt out or something like that, it's going to mark that contact or that company as unqualified. So your team's not spending time following up with people that are kind of blocking your communication in the first place. So this is a very simple example, but I think it's really key that kind of in this day and age, we need to use automation to stay on top of this. If you really want to grow your agency, you need a way to follow up with lots of clients at scale and make sure none of them fall through the cracks. And that's exactly what a tool like Workflows can do for you. It's basically like your automated selling robot that's going to be selling for you and making sure you don't miss the mark anywhere. So I think it's really, really important to have some sort of automation built in to drive those renewals and make sure people are coming back to you year after year. And if they're not, being able to figure out why they're not and trying to retarget them through ads or blogging or retargeting or anything like that to ensure they know who you are still. And if they do need an accountant or have tax needs, you're the first one that comes to mind. The other thing you can do is use different sales tools as well. So for example, with HubSpot, we have the sales suite. And what this is really good for is it will give you a contact record and let you know when the last time somebody's followed up with them at your company and also when their deal has been closed. So for example, if I have somebody that's been with us for 4 years, I'd have 4 closed won deals. And if I don't have an open one for 2022 or 2023, my team can filter that and say, okay, this is the list of people we need to go after to try to get them to come back to our agency and make sure they don't go elsewhere. So having a CRM in general is going to be very key. But I think on top of that, just having the automation so you don't have to have a huge team of salespeople to follow up with all these different companies, whether they're net new or returning clients, is also really key. If you have bad data and you can't stay organized, then you're not really going to get the results you want at the end of the day. Other than that, so a really big topic that lots of people are typically worried about is driving net new revenue. So we need to have new clients come in, whether it's project-based or maybe they have us do their business taxes once a quarter or something like that, or even monthly. So it's really important to make sure your presence is known and make sure people find you when they're looking. So nowadays, typically buyers are doing a lot more research before they even reach out, which is why it's very, very important to put out content that kind of resonates with that person so that you are kind of throw your hat in the ring per se. So you'll be on their short list of people they're reaching out to. So what that looks like, I highly recommend doing blogging. So with HubSpot, it's super easy. You can just hit create new blog and it'll have your theme saved. You can quickly drag and drop the editor. There's also a lot of other great blogging tools out there. But the reason blogging is so important nowadays is it really helps you rank on Google and other search engines so people find you when they're doing research. If you're not putting out content around the clients that you're trying to target and that you want to work with, there's going to be another agency or firm that is. So it's very, very important to not only have a blog, but make sure you're posting on a regular basis. If you're posting twice a year, it's not going to do much for you in the terms of keyword searches and things like that. So I'd highly, highly recommend having some sort of content strategy and making sure people can get informed and know why you're the best choice for their business. And also you're just attracting the right clients. If you want to work with a specific kind of company or specific person in general, you need to be putting out content that they would find interesting and that will help them find you in the first place. Lots of our job nowadays is helping buyers educate themselves. So by the time they reach out to us, they're ready to pull the trigger and we're not having some super long drawn out sales process. The other piece that I really, really recommend is having some tools around landing pages and ads, and also some way to make a social strategy. So in the ideal world, you should have a tool that can house all of these so you can see what your strategy is across different channels. Because at the end of the day, different people will interact with different content. Some people might like a blog more. Some people might just have it pop up on Facebook ads or Google ads or LinkedIn ads, and they need a landing page that they could fill out and get in contact with their team. And some people want to stay up to date via social posts. So that's one part that I really like about HubSpot is you could really house all of your kind of marketing activities to drive net new business under one umbrella. So for example, I can quickly make a landing page for one of our themes or get one of our agency partners to build you a custom theme for your landing pages, blogs, emails, things like that. And the reason this is important is the pitfall I see lots of companies fall into is they know they need to be putting out content, but they're not sure or don't have the tools really to do it. So for example, if you're on WordPress, you might not have the technical know-how to do some HTML or design different pages and things like that. That's why I think HubSpot is a big, big advantage for accountants is you don't have to know how to code. You don't have to know how to make a beautifully designed page. Everything's going to be there so you can select from it. So I highly urge you to find some sort of tool that makes the design side where you don't have to think about it. And all you have to think about is what channels you're on and what content you're putting out. Kind of going back to that, we also have different social tools. So it's really important to be able to see the big picture of what actions you're taking, and then also be able to put those back and see what results they're getting you. So for example, here, we have Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the major platforms, and you could actually schedule out the posts in advance. So you could write a whole month of posts and have them fire off on specific days and times. So it's out of your hair and you don't have to worry about it. And on top of that, I think one of the most important things when you are putting all this time and effort into marketing and driving net new sales is being able to have analytics around it. So one thing that's really nice, since everything is built in our specific tool, is you can easily monitor how things are going. And then you can easily analyze and see what posts are bringing in the most contacts, what audiences are the biggest on what platforms, how many clicks you're getting and interactions. And I think the most important one is this one right here. This one lets you break down and see, okay, from my organic versus paid social, what's bringing the most contacts, meaning they've raised their hand and actually filled out a form to say, hey, I'm interested and want to learn more about your services. This is an additional layer that you can have. Whereas with just normal social media, all you're going to get is like sessions, clicks, interactions. You're not going to be able to actually see what customers and contacts that is actually driving for your agency. So there's one thing I hope for you to take away. It's going to be that you need to have some sort of interconnected tool that allows you to automate your process so people aren't falling through the cracks, and also meet people where they're at in the buyer's journey. And then you also need analytics to back that up, so you're not just spinning your wheels wondering what's going to work and what's not going to work. So the last couple of things I'm going to cover is going to be the importance of having a good ad tool. So with ads, it's really, really easy to get in and get overwhelmed. It's super easy to spend a bunch of money, not see a lot of results, or not know where your customers came from in the first place. So with HubSpot specifically, we have a couple different tools. You can manage all of your platforms in one spot. So that way you'll have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, whatever platforms you're using to advertise. And since it's built on top of the CRM, you can actually go in and build different custom audiences to actually further target down who you're trying to go after as customers. The other really nice thing is optimization events. So what an optimization event is it's basically taking the ad platform data that you already get, and then it's layering on your CRM data. So for example, if somebody takes a certain action on your website and they converted via a certain lead, it will put them in a specific ad campaign for that specific action. So it lets you get hyper targeted on your messaging. So it's very applicable to who you're trying to target, and it has higher conversion rates. So this is a great way to get hyper targeted in your ads and make sure every dollar you're spending actually goes and creates a result for your business. Kind of going back to the analytics I talked about on the social side, I would do the same thing on the ad side. So it shows you your total ad spend over time, clicks, impressions, customers, contacts, so on and so forth. So the reason this is really important is, like I said earlier, if you don't have the analytics, you're not going to really know what is bringing in the income for your business. That means if, for example, like let's say blogging brings in 90% of your customers, but you're just on WordPress and don't have it connected to some sort of CRM, you might be spending money on Google ads that you might not need to spend because everybody's converting via your blog or vice versa. So having a powerful analytics tool behind all the actions you're taking as a company is really key nowadays, and helps save a lot of time and frustration as well. Nobody wants to be that person that's taking all these different marketing actions and not getting results. So having the analytics there is really key. The last thing I want to cover is going to be how to stay organized with all these different kind of business actions. You need to be able to say, hey, we're doing this to drive more referrals. We're doing this to drive more retention in our business. And we're doing this to drive more net revenue. And what I recommend is having some sort of campaigns tool to do that. So what a campaigns tool is it allows you to back in assets. And an asset's going to be something like a blog, an ad, social posts, things like that. And it'll tie it all back to one goal. So in this case, our goal is new blog subscribers. So here I've built out a couple different actions that we're taking to drive traffic. So in this case, we have 2 ad campaigns, 3 different emails going out, landing pages, website pages, social, and workflows. And this allows you to get segmented and actually know what you're doing for each kind of initiative you have as a company. So this is where you could really look and say, okay, for driving net new business, we're doing these 10 items and they're bringing us this much money and this many customers. So this will really help you know, okay, which campaign's the most successful. A great example of this is I work with one agency that primarily only works through referral. That's how they've done it in the past. And they were actually able to use our campaigns tool to drive and to try to get more net new business and actually doing marketing activities. And they saw a 100% increase in their net new business because before they weren't doing anything. They didn't have a way to stay organized and they just got overwhelmed trying to build it out. So having some sort of campaigns tool to help you really get organized and say, this is what we're doing for these specific business units, and this is how we're going to get to our ultimate goal for 2022 is going to be really key. So kind of wrap things up and put a pen into things. What we kind of covered today is using NPS surveys to figure out which customers are likely to refer friends and family. And then based off those actions, be able to market to them or have somebody from your company reach out to them if they aren't happy on the flip side. The reason that's important is it's going to help you know who's happy and who's not, prevent bad reviews, and also drive more referrals from people that said, hey, yeah, of course I'd recommend you to friends and family. The next kind of important piece is having some sort of automation to make sure your current client base doesn't fall through the cracks. If you're bringing in tons of new clients, you're wasting a lot of energy if you don't have some sort of way to ensure they're being followed up with and ensure they're actually being a customer for this following season or for whatever their needs are accounting wise. And then the last piece is driving net new business. This definitely is the most complex piece. It has a lot of moving parts. So it's really important to have a good strategy in place and have a tool to track that strategy. But what I'd recommend starting out with is some sort of blogging on a consistent basis, whether that's weekly or monthly, just to get your name out there and make sure that you have content out there for when people are researching you. Next one's going to be landing pages. So you have somewhere to send people. For example, you could have a landing page that is targeted specifically towards ongoing business services where they're paying monthly for monitoring credit card transactions or doing general ledger entries or auditing their entries. And then having some sort of way to track your social engagement. So you need some way to track both the organic and paid sides so you know what's working and what's not. And then the last piece is having some way to track where your dollars are going ads wise if you are advertising. I see so many companies spend tons of time and money and effort advertising on Google and LinkedIn and things like that. And they don't get the return they want because they're not sure what's really working and what's not. So hopefully you took some good takeaways and different tools that you can use. Always happy to answer questions via email or jump on a call with you. So if you have any questions, you could reach out to me at B as in Bravo, and then Lytle, which is L as in Lima, Y as in Yankee, T as in Tango, L as in Lima, E as in Echo at HubSpot.com. And hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks.